Look, I'm not here to sugarcoat this. By the time I turned 30, I had basically thrown away $50,000. Not on anything cool either. No sports car, no wild trip around the world. Just bad decisions. Small ones that added up. Big ones I ignored until they became expensive problems. And the worst part? Most of it was completely avoidable. I'm Sam, and if you're in your 20s right now, or you're about to be, this video might save you more money than anything else you watch this year. Because I'm going to walk you through the exact mistakes I made, how much each one actually cost me, and what you should do instead. But real quick before we jump in, I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice. This is just me sharing what I learned the hard way. Your situation is different than mine, so take what's useful, do your own research, and make the best decisions for you. All right? Let's get into it. So here's the thing about your 20s. You finally have some money coming in. Maybe it's your first real job, maybe you're freelancing, maybe you're grinding side hustles. Whatever it is, you've got cash flow for the first time in your life, and it feels good. But nobody really teaches you what to do with it. You're supposed to just figure it out. And most of us, we figure it out the hard way. I definitely did. By the time I hit 30, I sat down and actually calculated how much my mistakes had cost me. Not just the money I spent, but the money I didn't make because I was too busy screwing around. The opportunity cost, the compound interest I missed out on, the debt interest I paid that I didn't have to. It came out to about $50,000. That's a down payment on a house in a lot of places. That's a year of freedom if you wanted to take a sabbatical. That's retirement money that could have been growing for decades. Instead, gone. So let me break down the 5 biggest mistakes I made and how much each one cost me. And more importantly, what you can do right now to avoid making the same ones. All right, mistake number 1. And this is the big one, the one that cost me the most. I didn't start investing until I was 28. I know, you've heard this before. Start investing early, compound interest, blah, blah, blah. It sounds like something a finance textbook would say, right? But here's the thing, I heard that advice too and I ignored it, because I thought I had time. When I was 23, I got my first job that paid decent money. Nothing crazy, but enough that I had money left over after rent and bills. And I remember thinking, I'll start investing when I'm making more. When I'm more stable. When I have it all figured out. That was the mistake. Because here's what actually happens when you wait. Let's say you invest $500 a month starting at age 23. By the time you're 30, assuming a pretty standard 8% annual return, you'd have about $52,000. Not bad, right? But if you wait until you're 28 to start, like I did, and you invest that same $500 a month, by age 30, you'd have about $12,000. That's a $40,000 difference in 7 years. And it gets worse. Because that $40,000 you missed out on, it's not just sitting there, it's growing. By the time you're 60, that early investment gap could be worth over $500,000. $500,000. All because I thought I had time. Now, I get it. When you're 23, retirement feels like a lifetime away. You've got student loans, you've got rent, you've got a life to live. Investing feels like something rich people do, or something you'll get to eventually. But that's the trap. Because eventually never comes. There's always something else. A car repair, a wedding, a vacation. Life happens, and if you're not investing from the start, you just don't. Back when I got my first real paycheck, I blew half of it on upgrading my laptop because I thought I deserved it. Top-of-the-line MacBook Pro. The works, and yeah, it was nice. But you know what would have been nicer? Having that $2,000 growing in an index fund for the next 7 years. That laptop's worth maybe $300 now. That investment would be worth over $3,000. So here's what I wish I'd done. I wish I'd started with something small. Even $200 a month. Even $100. It doesn't matter how much you start with. What matters is that you start. Open a Roth IRA. Set up automatic transfers so you don't even think about it. Invest in a simple index fund, something like a total market fund or an S&P 500 fund. You don't need to be a stock picker. You don't need to time the market. You just need to start. Because the cost of waiting? It's real, and it's expensive. For me, not investing early cost me about $20,000 in missed growth by the time I turned 30. And that number just keeps growing the longer I look back on it. Don't make that mistake. All right, mistake number 2, lifestyle inflation. This one's sneaky because it doesn't feel like a mistake when it's happening. It feels like progress. When I was 24, I got a raise. Not a huge one, but enough that I was making about $6,000 more a year than I was before. And I remember feeling like I'd finally made it, like I could breathe a little. So I upgraded my apartment, got a nicer place in a better neighborhood. Nothing crazy, but my rent went up by about $300 a month. Then I started eating out more, because I could afford it now, right? I deserved it. I was working hard. Then I upgraded my car. My old one was fine, but I wanted something newer. Something that didn't make weird noises when I turned left. So I got a car payment. $350 a month? And just like that, my entire raise was gone. Actually, I was spending more than my raise. I was going backwards. That's lifestyle inflation. Every time you make more money, you spend more money, and you end up in the exact same financial position you were in before, just with nicer stuff. Here's the thing, though. Nicer stuff doesn't actually make you happier. Not long term, anyway. There's this concept called hedonic adaptation. Basically, you get used to whatever your lifestyle is. The fancy apartment feels normal after a few months. The new car is just your car. The thrill wears off. But the payments, those stick around. Over the course of my 20s, I probably spent an extra $15,000 on lifestyle upgrades that didn't actually improve my life in any meaningful way. $15,000 that could have been invested or saved or used to pay off debt faster. Instead, I was just keeping up with what I thought I should have at that stage of life, keeping up with friends who seemed to have it all figured out, keeping up with some imaginary standard that didn't even matter. I once worked with a guy who made way less than me, but he was building wealth faster, and I couldn't figure out why. Then I saw his apartment, tiny studio, old car. He ate lunch from home every day, and I remember thinking, man, that sucks. I could never live like that. But you know what? He retired at 45. I'm still working. He understood something I didn't, that every dollar you spend on lifestyle is a dollar that's not working for you. And in your 20s, when compound interest is your best friend, those dollars matter more than they ever will again. So here's what you should do instead. When you get a raise, pretend you didn't. Seriously, keep living on your old salary and invest the difference. Or at least invest half of it. Give yourself a little lifestyle bump if you want, but don't let your expenses grow as fast as your income. Because here's the truth. You can always upgrade your lifestyle later. You can't get back the years of compound growth you missed. The goal in your 20s isn't to live like you've made it. It's to actually make it. And that means keeping your expenses low while your income grows. Trust me, future you will thank you. Mistake number 3, credit card debt. This one's embarrassing to talk about, but I'm going to anyway because I know I'm not the only one who's been here. When I was 25, I had about $8,000 in credit card debt. And I was just making minimum payments, paying it down slowly, telling myself I'd get serious about it eventually. But here's what I didn't understand at the time. Credit card interest is brutal. Most cards charge somewhere between 18 and 25% APR. That's not a typo. 25%. So let's do the math. If you have $8,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest, and you're only making minimum payments, let's say $200 a month, it'll take you over 6 years to pay it off. And you'll pay over $7,000 in interest alone. $7,000. That's almost as much as the original debt. You're basically paying for everything twice. For me, I carried that debt for about 3 years before I finally got serious about paying it off. And in that time, I paid about $4,000 in interest. $4,000 that did absolutely nothing for me except keep me in debt. And here's the worst part. I was carrying that debt while not investing. So not only was I paying 20% interest on money I owed, I was also missing out on 8 to 10% returns on money I could have been investing. That's a 30% swing. Every year. The opportunity cost was insane. Now, how did I get into credit card debt in the first place? It wasn't one big purchase. It was 1,000 small ones. Dinners out. Concert tickets. A weekend trip I couldn't really afford, but put on the card anyway because I'd pay it off next month. Except I never did, because next month there was always something else. And that's how it happens. You don't wake up one day with $8,000 in credit card debt. You get there $5 at a time, $10 at a time, $50 at a time, and before you know it, you're stuck. So here's what you need to do if you're carrying credit card debt right now. Make it your number one priority. Not investing. Not saving for a vacation. Not upgrading your phone. Pay off that debt. Here's the strategy I used. It's called the avalanche method. You list out all your debts by interest rate, highest to lowest. Then you throw every extra dollar you have at the highest interest debt while making minimum payments on everything else. Once that's paid off, you move to the next one. It's not sexy. It's not fun, but it works. And if you're not in credit card debt yet, don't start. Seriously, treat your credit card like a debit card. Only spend what you have. Pay it off in full every month. Use it for the rewards and the credit score boost, but never ever carry a balance. Because credit card debt is a trap. And the longer you're in it, the harder it is to get out. That $4,000 I paid in interest? That's mistake number 3, and it's $4,000 I'll never get back. Mistake number 4, not having an emergency fund. This one bit me hard. Multiple times. When I was 26, my car broke down. Transmission went out. The repair was going to cost about $2,500. And I didn't have it. I mean, I had some money in my checking account, but not enough to cover the repair and still pay rent and bills. So you know what I did? I put it on a credit card. Added $2,500 to the debt I was already carrying. And then I paid interest on that for the next 2 years. If I'd had an emergency fund, I could have just paid cash. Fixed the car. Moved on with my life. Instead, that one emergency cost me about $3,200 by the time I finally paid it off. An extra $700 in interest, just because I wasn't prepared. And that wasn't the only time. A few months later, I had a medical bill. Nothing major, but insurance didn't cover all of it, and I was on the hook for about $800. Again, didn't have it saved. Again, credit card. Then my laptop died. Then I had to fly home for a family emergency. Then, life happens. That's not a cliche. It's just reality. Emergencies aren't a matter of if, they're a matter of when. And if you're not prepared, every single one of them sets you back financially. Over my 20s, I probably had 6 or 7 emergencies that I wasn't prepared for. And because I didn't have an emergency fund, each one either went on a credit card or wiped out whatever small amount I'd managed to save, which meant I was constantly starting over, never making progress, just treading water. And here's what really frustrated me. I'd read all the advice about emergency funds. I knew I was supposed to have one, but it always felt like something I'd do later. After I paid off my debt, after I got that raise, after I had more money coming in. But that's backwards thinking. You need an emergency fund before anything else. Because without it, you can't make progress on anything else. Every emergency becomes a setback. So here's what I wish I'd done. I wish I'd started small. Even $500 would have helped. Even $1,000. You don't need 6 months of expenses saved right away. That's the goal, sure, but you don't start there. You start with 1 month, or even just $1,000, something that can cover a car repair, a medical bill, a broken phone, the small emergencies that come up all the time. Here's how you do it. Open a separate savings account. One that's not connected to your checking account, so you're not tempted to dip into it for non-emergencies. Set up an automatic transfer, even if it's just $50 a month, even 25. The amount doesn't matter as much as the habit. You're training yourself to save. You're building a buffer between you and financial disaster. And once you hit that first $1,000, you'll feel different, I promise. There's this weight that lifts when you know you can handle a surprise expense without panicking, without reaching for a credit card, without calling your parents. For me, not having an emergency fund cost me about $6,000 over my 20s. Between the interest I paid on emergency expenses and the setbacks that kept me from making financial progress, it added up fast. Don't make that mistake. Build your emergency fund first, before you invest, before you pay off low-interest debt, before anything else. Because financial stability starts with being able to handle life when it doesn't go according to plan. All right, mistake number 5. And this one's probably the most common mistake people make in their 20s. I ignored my student loans. Not completely. I mean, I made the minimum payments. I wasn't in default or anything. But I treated them like this background thing that would just eventually go away, like they were someone else's problem. When I graduated, I had about $35,000 in student loan debt. Mix of federal and private loans, interest rates ranging from 4% to 7%, and my minimum monthly payment was around $350. So that's what I paid. $350 every month for years. And I didn't think much about it. I figured, hey, everyone has student loans. This is just part of being an adult. I'll pay them off eventually. But here's what I didn't realize. On a $35,000 loan at 6% interest, if you only make minimum payments, you'll be paying for 20 years. 20 years. And you'll pay about $20,000 in interest alone. $20,000. That's more than half of what I originally borrowed. I was essentially paying for my education twice. And the worst part, I had the money to pay more. Not all at once, obviously, but I could have been putting an extra $100 or $200 a month toward those loans. I just didn't, because it wasn't urgent, because I was spending that money on other things, because I didn't understand how much that interest was actually costing me. When I was 27, I finally sat down and actually looked at my loan statements, really looked at them, and I saw how much of my monthly payment was going toward interest versus principal. It was like 70% interest, 30% principal. I was barely making a dent. That's when it clicked. Every month I waited to pay extra on those loans was another month of interest accumulating, another month of paying for money I'd already spent years ago. So I got serious about it. I started throwing every extra dollar I could find at my loans. Tax refunds, work bonuses, money I would have spent on going out or upgrading my phone. All of it went to the loans. But here's the thing. I should have been doing that from day one, from the moment I graduated, because every year I waited cost me thousands in interest. Let's say I'd paid an extra $200 a month starting right after graduation. I would have paid off those loans in about 8 years instead of 20. And I would have saved over $12,000 in interest. $12,000, just by being intentional about it earlier. Now, I know student loans are complicated. Some people have way more than I did. Some people have interest rates that are even worse. And I'm not saying you should sacrifice everything to pay them off as fast as possible. But here's what I am saying. Don't ignore them. Don't just make minimum payments and hope they go away. Because they won't. They'll follow you into your 30s, your 40s, maybe even your 50s if you're not careful. Here's what you should do. First, know what you owe. All of it. Every loan, every interest rate, every payment, write it down. Make it real. Second, if you have multiple loans, focus on the ones with the highest interest rates first. That's where you're losing the most money. Third, pay more than the minimum whenever you can. Even an extra $50 a month makes a difference. Even $25. It all adds up. And fourth, if you have federal loans, look into income-driven repayment plans or refinancing options. There might be ways to lower your interest rate or your monthly payment. Do the research. It's worth it, For me, ignoring my student loans for the first few years out of college cost me about $5,000 in unnecessary interest. $5,000 that could have been invested, saved, or used to build wealth. Instead, it went to interest, to paying for a mistake I made by not taking my loans seriously from the start. Don't make that mistake. All right, so let's add it all up. Let's see what these 5 mistakes actually cost me. Mistake number 1, not investing early. Cost me about $20,000 in missed growth by age 30. Mistake number 2, lifestyle inflation. About $15,000 spent on upgrades that didn't improve my life. Mistake number 3, credit card debt. $4,000 paid in interest. Mistake number 4, no emergency fund. About $6,000 in setbacks and interest from emergencies I wasn't prepared for. Mistake number 5, ignoring my student loans. $5,000 in unnecessary interest. Total? $50,000. $50,000. And that's just by age 30. That doesn't include the compound growth I'm still missing out on from not investing those early years. That doesn't include the stress, the setbacks, the feeling of always being behind. That's real money. Money that could have changed my life. Money that could have given me options, freedom, security. Instead, it's gone. But here's the thing. You can avoid these mistakes. Every single one of them. You can start investing today. You can keep your lifestyle in check. You can pay off your credit card debt. You can build an emergency fund. You can tackle your student loans. You have time. That's the advantage of being in your 20s. You have time to let compound interest work for you instead of against you. Time to build habits that'll serve you for decades. Time to course correct before these mistakes become too expensive. I didn't have someone telling me this stuff when I was 23. I had to figure it out the hard way. But you're hearing it right now, so don't waste it. All right, so we've talked about what not to do. Now let's talk about what you should do instead. If you're in your 20s right now, here's your action plan. This is what I wish I'd done. Step 1. Start investing immediately, even if it's just $100 a month. Open a Roth IRA. Set up automatic contributions. Invest in a low-cost index fund. And then forget about it. Let time do the work. Step 2. Keep your lifestyle in check. When you get a raise, invest at least half of it. Don't let your expenses grow as fast as your income. Live below your means, not at your means. Step 3. Pay off high-interest debt as fast as possible. Credit cards, personal loans, anything above 7 or 8% interest. Make it a priority. Use the avalanche method. Throw every extra dollar at it until it's gone. Step 4. Build an emergency fund. Start with $1,000. Then build it to 1 month of expenses. Then 3 months. Then 6. Keep it in a separate savings account where you won't be tempted to touch it unless it's a real emergency. Step 5. Don't ignore your student loans. Know what you owe. Pay more than the minimum whenever possible. Focus on the highest interest rates first. And if you can refinance to a lower rate, do it. That's it. 5 steps. Nothing complicated. Nothing that requires a finance degree or a 6-figure salary. Just consistency. Just discipline. Just making smart decisions with the money you have instead of waiting until you have more. Because here's the truth. You're never going to feel like you have enough money to start. There's always going to be something else you could spend it on. Something more fun, more immediate, more satisfying. But those small sacrifices you make in your 20s, they compound, just like interest, just like investments. Every dollar you invest today is worth more than a dollar you invest tomorrow. Every month you wait to pay off debt costs you more in interest. Every emergency you're not prepared for sets you back. The decisions you make right now in your 20s will determine what your 30s, 40s, and 50s look like. They'll determine whether you're building wealth or just treading water. Whether you're financially free or financially stuck, I learned that the hard way. You don't have to. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that money is everything. It's not. There are plenty of things more important than your bank account balance. But financial stress? That affects everything. Your relationships, your health, your ability to take risks and pursue opportunities, your peace of mind. And the mistakes I made in my 20s? They created financial stress that followed me into my 30s. Stress that I'm still dealing with. Stress that I could have avoided if I'd just been smarter earlier. So yeah, $50,000 is a lot of money. But honestly, the real cost was bigger than that. It was the opportunities I missed, the freedom I didn't have, the stress I carried around for years. That's what these mistakes really cost me. But here's the good news. You're watching this video, which means you're already ahead of where I was at your age. You're thinking about this stuff. You're trying to avoid the mistakes before you make them. That's huge, so take what I've shared here and actually use it. Don't just watch this video, nod along, and then go back to doing the same things you were doing before. Pick one thing. Just one. Maybe it's opening that Roth IRA. Maybe it's setting up a separate savings account for emergencies. Maybe it's making one extra payment on your credit card or student loans this month. Start somewhere. Because small actions compound, just like money does. And if you're sitting there thinking, man, I've already made some of these mistakes. I'm already behind. It's too late for me. Stop. It's not too late. I made all 5 of these mistakes and I'm still here. Still building. Still moving forward. The best time to start was 5 years ago. The second best time is today. When I finally got serious about my finances at 28, I felt like I'd wasted so much time. Like I was starting from scratch while everyone else was miles ahead. But you know what? I started anyway. And within 2 years, I'd paid off my credit card debt, built a 6-month emergency fund, and started investing consistently. It wasn't easy. I had to make sacrifices. I had to say no to things. I had to be intentional about every dollar. But it was worth it. Because now at 35, I'm in a completely different place financially than I was at 30. And I'll be in an even better place at 40. Not because I'm making crazy money or because I got lucky, but because I finally started making smart decisions and stuck with them. You can do the same thing, whether you're 22 or 29 or anywhere in between. The principles don't change. Start investing. Control your lifestyle. Pay off high-interest debt. Build an emergency fund. Take your loans seriously. Do those things and your 30s will look completely different than mine did. All right, that's it. Those are the 5 financial mistakes I made in my 20s that cost me $50,000 by the time I turned 30. If this video helped you, do me a favor. Hit that like button so more people can see it, because I guarantee you've got friends who need to hear this too. Share it with them. Send it to that friend who's always complaining about being broke but just bought another pair of sneakers they didn't need. And subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to keep making videos like this. Real talk about money. No BS. No get-rich-quick schemes. Just practical advice from someone who's made the mistakes so you don't have to. Drop a comment and let me know. Which of these mistakes have you made? Or which one are you working on fixing right now? I read every comment, and I'd love to hear your story. And if you want to go deeper, I've got more videos on investing, budgeting, paying off debt, all that good stuff. Check out the playlist in the description. Thanks for watching. I'm Sam, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care of your money so it can take care of you.